Claudia, it is so nice to see you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk to you.
Why don't you tell our guests your name, your business, and maybe the heart of what Black Mamba does?
Well, my name is Claudia Castellanos. I am the co-founder and CEO of Black Mamba. Black Mamba is I would call it an impact business or social business, whatever you want to call it, that is ingrained in willing to change food ecosystems by a simple yet powerful premise that food can only be good when it's actually good for you, good for the planet, and good for the communities. And we do that by manufacturing a range of chili-based condiments, including chili sauces that are award-winning, pestos, chutneys, jams, and more recently, more innovative condiments on the range like chili crunch and hot honey.
Amazing. And how long has the business been in existence? How long has Black Mamba been Black Mamba?
So Black Mamba's inception was in 2010, so for quite a while. But at the beginning, it was mostly a development project for rural communities in Eswatini. I arrived here as a volunteer from Colombia. And my husband always says jokingly that I volunteered to stay with him. But the reality is that I volunteer to just kind of like work on development, and Black Mamba became an engine to develop rural communities. And then fasting forward, we managed to receive seed capital from our investors, Enigma Ventures, and that catapulted the growth and the scaling of the business 2 years ago.
Amazing. So tell me about you talked about development in Eswatini. Talk to me about how Black Mamba is really integral to rural agricultural development in Eswatini.
That is very, very interesting because as Black Mamba starting as a project for development, I got the opportunity when I got here to be engaged with a handcraft business that used to work with grassroots communities. So what they used to do is they used to bring the raw material for making homeware to them. They will make the products following obviously more contemporary designs, and they will sell them around the world. So what I decided to do is like, we can replicate that business by having these communities to grow crops that would be high value. From the beginning, we decided to work with what we call micro holders or smallholders. Are very small. So farmers that have a portion of land, but a very small portion of land. So they needed to get and to grow crops that would be high value in order to make a decent and sustainable income. And those crops resulted to be chilies, peppers, which are vegetables that command a high price, and also fresh herbs. So with that in mind, and the fact that my husband and another one of the partners from the business is crazy about chilies, we decided this is a great crop to start working with, and it allows us to work as well on something fun, something spicy with a name like Black Mamba. So that worked really well in that sense. And also, Eswatini is unfortunately a country that is still very, very poor. 63% of the population live below the line of poverty. And our country is still very rural. Over 70% of the population lives in rural areas. So finding a project that would develop and provide these communities with not only an income, but a way of growing food that would be good for the planet as well, because we train these communities on growing through permaculture methods, and green agriculture became a source of development for all of these communities that we work with at the moment.
Amazing. So how important is it? Help us all understand, for those who don't really sort of understand rural Africa, how critical is it for rural Africans, and maybe even female rural Africans, to be able to earn a living?
So absolutely critical. When you have 70% of your population living still in rural areas, unless you develop those rural areas in a sustainable way, you cannot really develop the country. So that was very, very clear for us from the beginning. And that's what we decided as well. We wanted to do something, as I said before, good for you, good for the planet, good for the community. So we partnered very early on the development of Black Mamba with a local NGO that works on promoting resilience to rural communities. And they do that through permaculture, which is a beautiful way of actually seeing the world in a way that you can actually grow your food, but regenerate the soil. You become resilient. So climate change, which is something that affects us really bad and probably even worse in developing countries, and sort of this climate injustice that we're living, permaculture allows you to become resilient to these things because you don't depend too much on external inputs. So bringing a method that will be good for the planet, that will allow these communities to grow organic ingredients that will command a higher price on the market, that will allow them to actually as well secure, achieve food security, which is the first thing that we do. The farmers that we work with, what we have with them in terms of a contract is that they need to commit to grow food for their families. Once they achieve that, they can work on the second part of the commitment, which is what we call the income generating part, which is selling the produce to Black Mamba. So at the moment you are achieving food security, you're achieving a better regeneration of the soil and a better biodiversity of the land and everything, and Swaziland and Eswatini, as together, but you are as well providing them with income for the crops that they sell. So it becomes something, it's such a beautiful virtuous circle if you think about it, because each one of the farmers that we work with has on average 5 or 6 dependents. So they are the main sort of like breadwinners. And through what they managed to get in terms of income from Black Mamba, they've achieved the possibility of sending their children to school, to improve their water sort of management and resources, which is something obviously crucial for agriculture, to get electricity, even simple things like that have improved their livelihood in like a lot. And the other thing, because you mentioned about women, is at the beginning we wanted to work only with women, but we realized very soon that excluding the men out of the equation was bringing a certain friction on the communities. So what we decided is to open the possibility of learning permaculture and green agriculture to everybody. But interestingly enough, it's still the women that are more interested in that. And what we've noticed is in rural Africa, I don't know if only rural Africa, I would say in general in the world, women tend to invest the income that they receive in growing their communities and growing their country. So it's not thinking about them, but thinking about the school fees and thinking about providing for their families. So at the moment on our network of farmers that we work with, around 75% are still women. And most of them, which is even more interesting, is older women. We're working, the biggest average of people that we have is women that are in the 50s and 60s, which is considered, unfortunately, a very old person in rural Eswatini. And it's because these gogos have they had the burden in a way to take care of the grandkids, because most of the adult generation in Eswatini has been wiped out by the pandemic of HIV. Or they go to South Africa and emigrate to work. So it's these children growing with the gogos. And the gogos realize that through selling produce to Black Mamba, they don't have to move out of their land. They get help from their communities, they feed their families, they get an income, the kids have a better future. So it's a beautiful virtual circle that we're creating through working with Black Mamba in that way.
I love that. And you get to build a product that you can take to a global market. So it's like there's no way that those gogos in Eswatini could grow enough produce to take their produce to market, or even produce enough to be able to sell on a big scale. But by partnering with a company like yours, their products can go around the world, because you've built an extraordinary brand that's, available in supermarkets and online globally, which is really, really extraordinary. Amazing.
Thank you. And it's, what the funny thing is, the farmers, we show them where the products go. We get to see them at least 2 or 3 times a year. And the level of pride that they have when they see the bottles of Black Mamba, when they know that the products land on a shelf in the UK or in the United States or in the United Arab Emirates, it's a sense of pride of something that they did with their hands, you know. So it's very exciting and very emotional as well.
It's amazing. And something extraordinary just happened to you in the business very, very recently, that has even made my kids really, really excited, because everywhere we have been going in South Africa recently, my kids have been seeing Black Mamba on massive billboards wherever we have gone because of an extraordinary partnership. Tell us about that partnership and what happened.
Well, thank you. We are over the moon about being able to have achieved this partnership with Burger King South Africa. So this started as a project on kind of like them willing to create a very African burger. They somehow bumped into Black Mamba along the way, and they thought obviously that it was a very high quality product and they had an African sort of flavor. So they contacted me out of the blue. I thought it was a joke when I got an email. It's like, this looks like dodgy. It can't be Burger King. I mean, how do they even know about Black Mamba? But obviously, as any entrepreneur would do in this case, you jump at the opportunity. We started build a bridge of communication. We started working on different uses and different sauces. The first trial didn't work out well, but those who know me know that I don't take no for an answer. And I'm very persistent, aka stubborn. So through that, like negotiation and everything, we managed to get them to develop the whole peri peri range, which is the most quintessential African range with our peri peri chili sauce. The very exciting thing about this partnership, which is what I keep on mentioning to Burger King, is that it just showcased two things for me. The first one, seeing that a large corporate decides to partner with a small challenger brand that is ingrained in sustainability gives me hope and optimism for the world to be changing. You know, like larger corporations, they take them a lot more to change necessarily all their foundations to become the sustainable business that the world needs. But they've realized that by partnering with businesses that are ingrained in that, they can as well achieve that change. So for them, which they could have partnered with any other brand, they could have partnered with a Tabasco, so, you know, and they decided to rather give that possibility to a smaller brand because they agree with our values. Obviously, we have a very good quality product. We had our certifications in place, which obviously works. But it's the fact that they decided we want to support a brand that actually works with communities, works with the planet, and also has a great quality product. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been extraordinary to see. I think you're right. I mean, you don't often see big brands aligning themselves with sustainability, impacting rural communities, supporting women, which is all those things that Black Mamba really stands for. And so it's been, I think, an extraordinary collaboration. Interestingly, creating new product for Burger King, which is exciting. And placing your brand front and center alongside them, which as a small brand in comparison with Burger King is a really extraordinary thing. Tell us why you think it's important that big brands do that. I mean, why should other big brands do that?
I think nowadays, we all probably agree on the fact that the planet needs that sort of acknowledgement of consumption patterns and production patterns. We all know that. However, for many corporates, when the bottom line is still profitability, you tend to leave aside other aspects like people and planet. However, what we've noticed that, oh God, can you still see me? Sorry, I got somebody's calling on the back. So however, what we've noticed is that the new consumers, especially the younger generation, talking millennials, you're talking Gen Zs, are more and more making the business that they buy from accountable. We have nowadays access to all the information in the world. There is a lot of greenwashing, but there's more information to find out if you're greenwashing or not. So these corporations have noticed that it not only makes common sense, like we all know, but it makes business sense to start embracing those values, changing food ecosystems. I'm talking food in general, but it's the same world of fashion, you know? Like we want to know where our food is made. We want to know what is in the food. We want to know how that affects other people. But the corporates might not have necessarily the instruments or the speed to make those changes at the level that they need to be or that they require to be. When they partner with other businesses that are doing that, they're, I don't want to say doing it in an easier way, but they are showing their commitment and they are actually saying, look how we're doing that. We can't do it necessarily with all our value chain because it just requires a lot of change, a lot of investment, but we can do by start supporting these challenger brands that are sustainable from the moment they were born. So I think what we've noticing is more and more this sort of willingness to let me partner with the challenger brand that is sustainable because this is going to bring already that element of sustainability to my brand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's smart, right? It's really smart business, which is, you know, and it's also great for smaller brands that are challenging and are up and coming. Let's switch gears a little bit to talk about your own journey as a female founder. I'd love to know how you think about your own journey and your own struggles with growing and scaling a global company, because you really are thinking global. How easy has that been to do that from Eswatini?
Let's just say it hasn't been easy. I didn't choose the easiest country to start this business. It did obviously, and it still does make perfect sense from the point of view that Black Mamba's essence is to improve the livelihood of communities in Eswatini and being a good business model for the planet. So from that point of view, we are definitely in the right place. However, the type of product that we produce is probably more aligned for countries that have a more mature consumption pattern, if that makes sense. You know, products that are fair trade, that are sustainable, they command always a higher price because you pay fair to your farmers, because you pay premium price for organic. So our products are aimed towards mostly overseas markets. So we're a landlocked country. We can't export anything on sea freight unless we pass it via another country, which is usually South Africa. Our main markets are in Europe and in the US. Exporting is a whole sort of like ball game that you have to do. A lot of businesses actually come to me. It's funny, you know, we're still quite a small business based in Southern Africa and Eswatini, but I got people from South Africa, even from the UK, other challenging brands, and tell me, how do you do it? You export everywhere. And we don't even know how to export out of, like, you know, like to the next country. And I was like, guys, because we had no choice. That's what we had to do. We had to learn from the very beginning, trial and error. And that challenge of being far away from our markets is what has built our expertise in exporting. We make mistakes all the time, and it's not cheap. And the game where we're in now, and we're, like you clearly said, we understand that we're becoming a global brand, comes with managing all these levels of logistics, of exchange rates, or volumes as well. When you're exporting, is a game of volumes more than anything, and how to keep that core of sustainability and the essence of what Black Mamba is where it needs to be, and expand the reach and the sales network into the other countries. So obviously what we've done on the commercial side is we set up another business structure in South Africa. So that helps us a lot on growing South Africa, because all of a sudden you don't have to export to third-party businesses, but you're exporting to your own branch in South Africa. And from there you export. And we recently as well, which makes me very, very excited, opened a holding company in the US. That's our next sort of like frontier. I always said it's like the Wild West. Now we're going there to conquer the US, and having a entity there makes things easier from the logistic perspective as well. So we're very, very hopeful and confident that all the expertise that we built through this time and these challenges of being literally in a country that has no connection whatsoever, sometimes with the rest of the world, has been improved just by actually starting doing these commercial steps and these sort of like business sense steps to grow the brand.
I love that, because what you're saying in essence is our problem became our opportunity. Because the market was too small right where you are, you realized I have to go global right away and I have to get really good at exporting right away. So you took a problem and you turned it into an extraordinary opportunity that says, I'm taking what I've got and I'm taking it to the world because I've got to, otherwise I'll have no business.
Exactly.
I think that's true for all of us who are in business. It's easy to look at the problem and go, that doesn't work, or this is difficult, or this is too hard. But when you look at the solution and you go, well, the solution to that problem is this, then you can see, well, actually, it opens up so many possibilities. I mean, the fact that you are not just selling to one country, but you're selling across, dozens of countries is a massive opportunity, right? I mean, it makes it challenging also. But, the ability to do business and have partnerships all over the world for a small little Chile company out of Eswatini is really, really extraordinary. Really, really extraordinary. And it's amazing. And I know, having spent a lot of time on the continent now and having met a lot of food producers in particular, small scale food production facilities and small brands, the challenge to do what you've done is really huge, and actually not many people are making that leap, and not many people are making global happen. So that is because you are extraordinary. So, I mean,
thank you. Thank you.
You of course never know who's listening to our conversations when we go live. But if you as you think about 2024, we're going into 2024. And if you had one ask, or maybe I'm going to allow you two, and maybe someone who listens to this could help or know or support you, how could someone else help? What are your greatest needs in the business right now?
I think at the moment, because literally we are all overexcited about this opportunity to start growing our market in the US, any sort of market access, especially for, like you say, a small brand from Southern Africa that is not necessarily well known in those markets, any network support, any contacts with like distributors in the US or large retailers, buyers from large retailers in the US, especially brands and outlets and retailers that are starting to approach sustainability in a more important way. They're all doing it, but some of them are more saying it than doing it. Anyone that is listening and has that sort of contact and say, wow, this is an award-winning Africa's tastiest chili sauces. They're coming with innovative products into a market and into a food trend that is growing worldwide. If you have that person or that contact, that would be amazing.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Got it. We got it. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Contacts, networks, possibilities for getting Black Mamba on the shelves to a store near you. That's what she's looking for. And what difference would it make, Claudia, if you could continue to sort of pioneer the frontiers for Black Mamba? What difference would it make to the folks at home?
I think it just creates, again, a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more Black Mamba grows, the more farmers we can get on our value chain. The more farmers we can get in the value chain, the more support with like a sustainable income is for them to grow their families in a better way. One thing that we've noticed in the country is like younger people tend to kind of like snub agriculture. They think, let's go to the city and look for something else, when agriculture is literally what sustains us all. It's the base of everything. If we don't get food from the land, we don't get anything. So what we're trying to do is actually growing that sense of pride again, to just work with the land. So that's number one. So more people that we can put into our value chain that will improve the sort of sense of development. But the second thing that is super super nice for me is the fact that we can as well change the way food is grown. If we can show that growing food without pesticides, without poison, regenerative agriculture to become really a thing, then that will allow us to actually get other farmers to jump into that boat as well. And the third thing that for me is very, very important, if we can prove that a business that puts people and planet first can be successful, then we become that business model that can be replicated all over the developing world. So those are the three sort of visions that we have for changing the world, literally. I mean, we say we want to change the world one chili at a time. And I know it sounds a little bit kind of like, oh, but it's true. We believe that we have the possibility of doing that massive change in perception, in mentality, and putting people and planet first as a food business, changing food ecosystems.
That's extraordinary. Really, really extraordinary. If you're not fired up after listening to Claudia, I don't know what it's going to, maybe needing some chili sauce on the side to fire you up.
Black Mamba.
Exactly. Claudia, where can people, if people want to get in contact with you, how can they be in contact? How can they find you?
Thank you. So basically you can, our website is blackmambachili, CHILLI.com. And from that website, you get everything. You get my email, you get the info at Black Mamba Chili, all the information that is there. As an entrepreneur, I am unfortunately still a little bit of micromanager. So if you, any contact that you put on the website, you will reach me for sure, no matter what.
Great. Well, that's fantastic. All right, folks, you heard it here first. Award-winning challenger brand Black Mamba, and our co-founder and CEO, Claudia. Thank you so much for being with us today, Claudia. And thank you for telling us your story. It really is an extraordinary story. And we know the business has impacted so many lives across the country and continues to do so. So thank you for everything that you are doing.